5 years. I've officially been doing this passion project for 5 years. For half of a decade, I've been doing this. I started it. I never knew how big this channel would become, nor did I ever even try to predict how successful it would be. Because up to that point, I was pretty much just done with YouTube because my previous channel, I've just run out of steam and ideas. But with the help of a very special someone, you know who you are, I found a rejuvenation again. And now, 5 years later, here I am at almost 1,000 subscribers. Literally only 20 away from it. And it's amazing what this channel has become and how dedicated of a community it has garnered from all of you who have been watching and supporting me over these 5 years. It has been a genuinely amazing journey since I started this in March of 2020. And now, in March of 2025, I get to celebrate a big milestone. One that I wasn't sure I would ever even actually be able to hit. But here I am. 5 years. 5 years of Animation Station. 5 years of giving you guys review after reaction after upload. And most recently, cover after cover. I've had an amazing time doing this channel. I've had an amazing time making all this content for you guys, and it has been one of the biggest amazing things in my life. Getting to come here before you every day on this camera to talk to you guys about, media in general. And it's been a blessing, it's been an amazing experience, and while all my videos aren't up to the same quality I have now, you guys still watch them. Heck, one of my videos from way early back then is still one of my highest viewed videos ever, so I guess that counts for something. So, I just wanted to take a minute before we even start today's review to thank you guys, because without you, I wouldn't be doing this. And it's because of your continued support and feedback and likes and shares and subscriptions that I keep finding motivation, I keep finding ways to keep this going. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much, and I hope you guys enjoy this review. This one's for you. Alright, without further ado, and with the sappiness out of the way, let's get to the goofy superhero comedy of the day, shall we? What's up, what's happening, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Station, your number one station for anything and everything animation, including TV and movies. I'm your host, Jackson Small. Welcome to a time travel back to my childhood, to the mid to late 2000s, where the world was a lot simpler and, society wasn't a cluttered, hateful mess. But point is, back to my childhood, back to what shaped my taste in film. And this is one that I have wanted to review for, 5 years now. And honestly, I've kind of forgotten about it, to an extent. Until I saw a Facebook reel while scrolling through my feed the other day, and immediately getting hit with a wave of nostalgia. And realization of how amazingly stacked this movie's cast is, which we'll get to. But my point is, this is a movie that is a relic of my childhood. It's one I hold in very high regard, and it is one of my all-time favorite movies from this company. I have crapped on Disney multiple times in this channel's history, but I'm not afraid to praise them when it's due, either, because if you saw my entire Disney-vembers, most of those videos, I was praising them. I was reviewing the classics. I was reviewing the ones that made that company into what it is. Yeah, there were duds and bumps in the road, but point is, Disney can be good, and when they are good, I am happy to give them praise. It's just hard to do that lately, because most of the time now, they're just doing dumb decision after dumb decision. But let's forget about all that. Let's forget about the crappy remake trend, and let's just focus on Disney in the 2000s, where they were kind of inconsistent, to be frank. Like, yeah, they had some gems in that decade, don't get me wrong, but they also had a lot of duds and a lot of very weird movies. This is the weird era of Disney, so it's only fitting that one of my personal favorites is arguably one of their weirdest. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me as we take a look back into 2005 with a little cult classic original superhero movie titled Sky High. Yeah, Sky High. This is a movie that has become much of a cult classic. Like, most people don't talk about it anymore, but still, it has its dedicated fan base, and there's apparently even a whole subreddit of people making memes of this movie. Yes, I wish I was kidding, but that is a thing that exists, so. Yeah, I mean, it's a movie that technically falls into the forgotten category, because many people don't talk about it anymore, but trust me when I say it needs to be talked about more. This is a movie that is a lot more than what you think it is. And no, it's not a Disney Channel movie. This is a movie that was actually released theatrically, and actually did pretty good theatrically. It made back its budget, and it did a decent amount of profit. So, yeah. I mean, not only that, but with the cast that this movie had, that's kind of inevitable. But my point is, how does it hold up today? Well, this wasn't originally going to be my 5th year anniversary special. I was originally going to try to do something that's actually animation related. But after getting hit by a wave of nostalgia from that Facebook reel I found online, specifically the Coach Boomer scene, if you're wondering which one it is, it's the whole Coach Boomer power placement scene, I decided, you know what? Why don't we make this our 5-year anniversary special? Because it's something that's close to my heart, it's something I haven't talked about yet, and considering how I'm going to be spending a lot of November of this year bashing Disney to high hell, well, why not give them praise for one of their forgotten gems? So, yeah. Thus, we have today's review, and one of the longest written reviews I've ever written, because I wanted to go big with this one. Now, it's still spoiler-free, do not get me wrong, this is still a mostly spoiler-free review. So, don't worry, if you haven't seen this movie yet, you're not going to get spoiled. Aside from 1 or 2 scenes, and they're not really that consequential to the plot, they're just things that I remember. So, yep. I hope you guys enjoy this little trip back down memory lane to a movie that, honestly, is a lot better than you may think it is. So, welcome to Animation Station. Welcome to our 5th year anniversary special. Let's talk about the little unknown, forgotten cult classic that is Sky High. I hope you enjoy. This is another one of those movies I've always wanted to review ever since I first started analyzing film professionally 5 years ago, as this is a classic of my childhood that I've watched so many times back then. And now for the first time in at least 6 years, I've rewatched it again. Not only reliving that childhood nostalgia, but also looking at it with a more critical lens this time through, to see if it soars as high as I remember, or realize if it just left a huge crater that I never noticed previously. Well, let's find out, starting with the story. When Will Stronghold, played by Michael, I apologize if I butcher your name, Angario, however you pronounce that, the son of the 2 most popular superheroes in the city, Commander, played by Hollywood icon Kurt Russell, and Jetstream, played by Kelly Preston, arrives at the illustrious Sky High High School to begin his superhero journey. He finds himself washing out a coach Sonic Boom Boomers, played by well-known Deadite Slayer Bruce Campbell, power placement, and becoming a sidekick due to his lack of powers, painting a bigger target on his back than what he already had just from his reputation. However, as the year goes on, he begins to discover his strengths and slowly becomes more popular at school, winning the ire of the class president, played by horror legend Mary Elizabeth Winstead in one of her first ever roles, and the envy of his friends, as well as an archenemy in the hot-headed War and Peace, played by Stephen Strait. However, when a sinister plot by his parents' old nemesis Royal Pain threatens both the school and the world, it's up to Will and his friends to save the day. And that's basically the plot of the movie. In a way, it's perfectly all summed up by the front cover of this movie, the phrase that's right on the front of the box. It is a hybrid of Harry Potter and The Incredibles. That's literally exactly what it is. Now, first thing we gotta talk about is the insane cast that this movie was able to pull together. Yes, I already mentioned Russell, Preston, Winstead, and Campbell, but there's even more than that. There's a young Danielle Panabaker, Killer Frost from the Arrowverse, as Layla, Linda Carter, the OG live-action Wonder Woman, as Principal Powers, who even makes a Wonder Woman reference at one point in the movie. Yeah, the writers knew what they were doing. They were really cheeky. The late, great Cloris Leachman, the voice of Gran from The Croods, as Nurse Specs, Jim Rash, who many of you may know as the voice of Riddler from Harley Quinn, as both Stitches / Mr. Grayson, Kevin McDonald, Pleaky from Lilo and Stitch as Mr. Medulla, and his buddy Dave Foley, Flick from A Bug's Life as Mr. Boy, another Hollywood icon in Patrick Warburton to voice Royal Pain, and even 2 SpongeBob alumni. Yes, even when we're talking about something that's not related to Nickelodeon, we still have SpongeBob making an appearance anyway. You know, just like this little blue devil keeps getting in my videos when I keep trying to do something different. Every time. With the voice of the Sponge himself, Tom Kenny, and his wife Jill Talley, Karen's voice actress, in a cameo as the Timmermans that are mentioned at the beginning of the movie. To call this cast stacked is an understatement, and it still blows my mind that Disney was able to get this many big names in 2005 for an original live-action family movie. Especially one with this low of a budget. And even more shocking is that all of them actually put in really solid performances. Sure, the acting is over the top and corny, but it fits perfectly with the movie that it is. And I especially loved Bruce Campbell as Coach Boomer, who was not only just as funny as you'd expect from him. I mean, this is Bruce Campbell we're talking about, one of the funniest actors in Hollywood. But also a genuine scene stealer every single second he's on screen. And of course, Kurt Russell's a lot of fun too, playing as the dad with an ego complex. But honestly, my favorite performance in the movie actually goes to Nicholas Braun, who many of you may or may not know as Greg Hirsch from the show Succession, as Zach Braun. Yeah, they used the actor's actual last name and the character's last name, but I don't know why they did it, but they did that, for whatever reason. Who's genuinely just living in his own little world the entire movie and has some of the best lines. Overall, it's a great cast that delivers good performances. This cast, when I saw that Facebook reel and I realized that was Bruce Campbell, I'm like, oh, now I gotta go back and see who else is in this movie. Turns out a lot of up-and-comers and all-time greats of Hollywood. Again, low budget, 2005 Disney live-action family movie that got this cast. Blows my mind, dude. Second is what I think is the best part of the entire movie, the comedy. While it doesn't always land, when it does, it's ridiculously funny, if sometimes a bit unintentional. From the over-the-top performances of the actors, to the cheesy dialogue, to the surprisingly clever writing, to even the very dated effects, it almost never failed to get a good laugh out of me. It's a movie that knows exactly what it is and just has fun, and in turn the audience has fun along with it. If you don't take this movie too seriously, you're gonna have fun. Not to mention, most of the jokes aren't lowbrow or typical Disney schlock, instead offering plenty of really good satire and genuinely funny jokes for both adults as well as kids. It's one of those movies, kind of, again, like the Sonic movies, where it has something for both sides. It has great jokes for adults, and it has great moments for kids. My personal favorite joke is right in the beginning of the movie, and I can talk about this one because it is in the trailer. When Ron Wilson, the bus driver, one of the coolest side characters known to man, just drives the bus 80 miles per hour off an unfinished road and lets it plummet for a while before turning on the jets just to scare all the freshmen. This part had me dying on a rewatch. It's just plain hilarious, and one of Disney's best non-animated comedies. Like, I kid you not, when I say this movie is funny, it is funny. It is hilarious. It is genuinely well written and actually funny. Like, yeah, you get one or two typical Disney jokes every now and then, but most of it is actually clever. It appeals to both adults and kids, and it's actually funny. You have no idea how hard that is to say about Disney nowadays. Third is the story, which is surprisingly original, even being one of the first pieces of media outside of comic books to come up with this superhero high school idea. Yes, I know the whole X-Men comic books exist, but I mean like outside of comics and just film by itself. And this is also years before My Hero Academia made it more popular with their format. And doing it pretty well, at that. The family stuff is not sappy cringe for once, the characters are all surprisingly multidimensional and not just flat cliches, and the teenager aspect is actually really well handled. Which is surprising, since Disney, and let's be honest, Pixar, usually sucks at this particular aspect, even to this day. Heck, even the main character Will Stronghold, who's usually just the token everyman or clean slate in these kind of movies, is actually well written, and has a really good arc. He's not just a one-note douche after he gets popular, he just continues to make unknowing mistakes that push him away from his friends, and even when it's usually like the big moment when the character realizes everything that's going on, he's still himself, and he tries to immediately make amends. Sure, you can see each beat of the story coming from a mile away. It's beats in the story that you can't predict if you've seen 1,000 of their superhero movies. But that just comes with the territory. It's still a great story regardless. And then there's the action and cinematography, which is also great. The battles especially are pretty fun, with some good choreography and a lot of energy to them. Like, you have people flying around, you have people getting thrown through walls, you have things breaking, like, you have one scene of someone grabbing someone by the foot and smashing them around Loki style, like, it's actually really good action for the time period. The cinematography helps this out too, as it does a fantastic job of replicating a Golden Age comic book with the angles and the lighting, which only adds more enjoyment to the action. Yes, there's a lot of Dutch angles, but it's honestly done in a way where it's not that off-putting. Like, yes, there's one too many of them, but when the movie is this much fun, you honestly just find yourself not caring. Or at least that's how it is with me. Even if certain action scenes don't last very long, some of them are only like 5 minutes, maybe 2, it's still pretty memorable. And last but not least, there's the soundtrack, which is also really good. Sure, it is very 2000s, with Bowling for Soup in the end credits, and a lot of forgotten rock/alternative music. But it's all very good rock/alternative music, and it's coupled with the added bonus of the excellent background instrumental music, which is not only far better than most of the other non-licensed superhero movies, but it actually does a good job of fitting the whole superhero aesthetic of the film, with genuine bombast and incredibly solid composition. There's also its litany of other positives as well, like the excellent pacing, the spectacular third act, the perfect runtime of only 100 minutes, very high rewatchability, amazing set design, and especially the absolutely phenomenal writing. Like, I cannot put it into words and praise it high enough. This movie's writing is a lot better than you think it is on first glance. It's actually smart, it's genuinely clever, it gives all the characters depth and dimension, and for the most part, it actually makes sense. That being said, though, it's not perfect either, as it does have some flaws. The villain's motivation is more than a little confusing. The parenting from Commander and Jetstream is questionable at times. There's a couple of minor plot holes, and yeah, no way around it anymore. The effects are pretty dang bad, with a lot of green screening and a mind-numbing amount of CGI. Yeah, there's just no way around that, unfortunately. This movie has some very dated, very bad effects. And before you say, oh, it's of the time period, give it a little bit of credit. Need I remind you that Lord of the Rings came out in this same decade? Just saying. Like, better effects existed back then. But this being a low budget Disney movie, I guess I can give it some leeway. But it is bad. It is going to be very jarring when you first watch it. The effects in this movie are pretty bad. Sure, every now and then there's a practical effect, like in the cafeteria fight with some of the damaged walls and tables, and you do have one character going through a wall and almost all the way through a support beam. So there is some practicals in there, but it's very rare. However, like I said before, the effects also kind of play into the comedy because they're so dated and so bad that you can't help but laugh. So it leads me to believe that it was 100% intentional and just trying to fit the whole goofy comic book vibe. Fair enough, I guess. So, now with everything addressed and analyzed, and now over 20 minutes in, let's get back to the question from the beginning. Does it soar high like I remember as a kid, or does it just leave a superpowered crater? Well, considering how overwhelmingly positive this review has been, I think it's clear to you guys which one it is. Soaring higher than most of its modern-day peers and hitting hard with non-stop laughs, Sky High is an absolute blast to watch even 20 years later. Hilarious, action-packed, clever, over-the-top, and ridiculously fun, this has held up surprisingly well, and even now at 24 years old, I still absolutely love it just as much, if not more than I did as a young kid. I seriously cannot recommend this one highly enough. If you're sick and tired of watching bad superhero movies from the big IP of today's film landscape, like if you're sick of those really bad superhero movies that come out nowadays, give this cult classic a watch. It's Harry Potter mixed with Incredibles, and even today, it's still one of Disney's best movies. Absolutely check this out. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, man. I love this movie. I will always love this movie. It is a piece of my childhood, it holds a piece in my heart, and even today, I still find this movie ridiculously funny. So, yeah, if you haven't seen this movie yet, absolutely give it a watch. It is one of Disney's strongest efforts, and it's a movie that, honestly, I kind of wish got a sequel. And originally there was supposed to be a sequel with Save You. Get it? Like Save University, this movie series and its puns. But for whatever reason, Disney canceled it, and this series never got brought back again. Now, 20 years later, I think it's about time we do so. Now, before you say, like, oh, but you bash most Disney legacy sequels nowadays. Well, simple way to fix that. Get back the entire cast and crew of the original. Obviously, aside from Cloris Leachman. May she rest in peace. But get everyone else back from the original. Have the characters aged up, and actually do have a college storyline. And you can make it even more mature than you did with this one, because since the PG rating allows a lot more nowadays, you can actually really push that rating. Like, you can really go more mature and adult by going to college, by having these characters grown up and having them deal with some grown-up problems, on top of, the usual superhero stuff that people come to this movie for. So, just a suggestion. Disney, if you're looking for an IP to bring back that might actually help make you money instead of detrimenting you, this one right here is a good place to start. So, stop with your crappy live-action remakes and give us a continuation of something we actually like, please. So, without further ado, and again, 20 plus minutes in, I know this was a big review, I'm sorry. Let's dive in to my final verdict for this movie. My final verdict for Disney's forgotten gem Sky High is going to be a 9.5 out of 10. If you have not watched this movie yet, you need to. It's one of Disney's strongest efforts. It's one of their best movies of the 2000s. And honestly, one of my favorite superhero movies. It's refreshing, it's original, it's funny, it's well written, it's clever, it's sharp, and it's action-packed. What more could you ask for? And again, I feel like this kind of also falls into the SpongeBob Graveyard Shift scenario, where with that, it's the more bad horror movies you watch, the better that episode gets. The more bad superhero movies and shows that you watch, the better this movie gets. But hey, probably just my opinion, and I've liked movies that people hate before, so... I mean, what do I know? Just a guy on the internet. But this guy on the internet says this movie's really, really good. I think you guys should watch it, and I am so happy to finally review it. And that's it. And that brings our big 5th anniversary special of Animation Station to a close. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for 5 years of support. We'll be back on the miraculous train tomorrow. But until then, honestly, I'm going to go watch this movie again. Yeah, I'm going to watch it again because I love revisiting my childhood. So I'm going to go watch this movie again now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Seriously, check this movie out if you have not seen it yet. From what I've heard, it is on Disney+. And again, physical media exists. Come on, people. By whatever means necessary, check this movie out. I think you're going to have a really fun time. So, yep, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for 5 years. Here's to 5 more. I'm Jack Small. This is Animation Station. And I'll see you in the next review. Take care, everyone. Stay super.
Listen, I want to forget. So listen and you won't regret. Be true to yourself, don't miss your chance. And you won't end up like the fool who ripped his pants.